DIY inside the waistband holster. I'm going to do another series on holster making at home. This video is going to be aimed more towards the novice, the beginner who's just getting into it, who wants to try to make a holster for themselves. If you're advanced, it might be a little long-winded. I really want to go over some tips and techniques that can help some of the new guys. By no means am I an expert at this. I'm just passing along what works for me. If you haven't seen my first series on DIY belt holster, I'll put the links in the description for that. So all the items in front of you can find basically at Tandy. You can also find them online, but Tandy sells them pretty cheap and they're readily available. And there's probably a Tandy near you, so you can get it locally too. Real quick, you're going to need a pattern. The pattern, I'm not going to go into pattern making for guns. I also have another video on that. I'll leave that link in the description as well if you want to learn how to make a pattern for the gun you're trying to make the holster for. But basically a few hand tools, beveler, stitch groover, punch. If you're going to hand stitch it, you're going to need needle and thread. You're going to need a pricking iron or something to make your lines or holes for the needles. Belt clip, about $2.50 at Tandy's. You're going to need a snap fastener or a screw, and I'll get into why you need those and as the videos go on. I'm going to clear all this off and we'll get set up for the first step and we'll get started. Alright boys and girls, let's get started on this puppy. So I got my leather, I have my patterns. I'm not going to go through pattern making in this video. I already have one that I previously made. I'll leave a link in the description for that one. You can make your own patterns. Obviously I have them all marked out. Find a good spot on your leather. I get my leather from Tandy. I kind of like this grainy pattern. It just works for me. It seems to be my style that I prefer. Find a good spot on the front. It's very important too, in my opinion, to find a good spot on the back where it's nice and smooth. Not so, if I can get you in there, not so chunky. Smoother the better. So what we're going to do is we're going to trace this pattern out. Now make sure on your pattern you make sure what side goes up or down. You want to cut it backwards. Some guys like to use awls to scratch around it. I prefer a pen to do my outline. And I've never had a problem using pen because in a later process when we start to do the edges, all that's removed when we bevel. So cutting the leather. What I like to do is I use a scrap piece of leather, and on the rough side of the leather I put jeweler's rouge on the edge. And I like to strop my blade. It's personal preference, you don't have to do this, but it does make the cutting process a lot smoother. And then basically we're just going to cut around the pattern as best we can, and we'll go from there. Alright, we're over at the drill press. I put a sanding disc on my benchtop drill press. We're just going to sand all these edges down. Got the piece of leather, have our pattern, and on the pattern, as you can see, I have an outline of the actual piece that goes over it, and then probably 3/16 of an inch on the inside of that I have some lines. And what I'm going to do, that tells me how far to run my glue line. I don't want to get it out here and then you have to try to scrape it off and it looks a little tacky. So just to be careful, I have my stitch line right here. What we're going to do after we sanded it, we're going to lay it on the piece of leather. We're going to take a small little punch and I'm going to mark my stitch lines and my glue lines for the top piece. I'm not pressing too awfully hard, just enough to see the imprint on the leather so I can use the stitch groover for here. Then on this outside part, I'm just going to put a very light taps. So when I take this off, and now I know where to line this piece up on that bottom piece of leather. Just got the sanding process done. We're back at the bench. We're going to go over stitch grooving. But before we do, I just want to let you know I'm working on a customer's holster as well as my own personal holster. Depending on what process of the holster making I'm doing while doing these videos. Depends, you might see one or the other, but they are the exact same holster. Just probably going to be a different color. Grooving. Do you have to do this step? No, you can skip it. I like to do it, especially when hand stitching. It makes it a lot neater. You can follow that line better. What it does is it puts a groove or a trench in your leather, and it helps the thread sit in the leather, and it does help protect it. What I do first is I don't bevel my leather until after I get this done, and the reason being is when you sand these edges, it creates a little lip and it makes them flat. When you bevel the edges, you're doing just that, you're beveling them, so it makes them a little more round. Hard to follow that line with this, and you'll be all over the place. Believe me, I've screwed up a number of pieces doing that. With this little lip, and being that it's straight and square, you can follow that line a little bit better. Just a FYI for you there. Alright, I'm going to get set up and we'll get right to it. Alright, that does it for this part. I'm going to do some shameless selling here. These are all my original designs. I'm selling these. These are just overstock. Anything you see on the table, $24.99 plus shipping. Shipping usually runs around like $6, so about 30 bucks. You can get one of these holsters. I'll go through them real quick. All the ones on the left side here, these are all for 1911s. This fits for anywhere from the 3-inch to the 4-inch to the 5-inch. These are for 1911. These are a bigger model. These were one of my first ones. They're a little big, but if you're not worried about concealment and you're just like out on the trail for comfort, this really holds the gun well. Although all of these holsters do, the retention's very good. Another 1911. Let's see, 1911. Another 1911. All these. These are a different kind of pancake style. This one has skulls in it. I don't know if you're into that or not. So these are all the 1911s. This is one with the "Do Not Tread on Me." Oh, sorry. Don't mean to go so fast. All right. All these are for car CM or PM9. Inside the waistband also. These two. Car PM CM9s. And all these are for Glocks. Glock 26, 27, and I believe the 31 is the same size. It'll fit all of those. So if anybody's interested, throw me a PM. You can find me at Wolf Creek Holsters on Facebook. I can make them for any make, model, gun. I do have a few other designs, and also if you'd like, check out my Etsy store. It's Wolf Creek Holsters on Etsy.com. Thanks, hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the next part.